What's up, Internet? I'm Jay-Z. Before you ask, I don't know how Beyonce's doing. That's a different guy. But I'm not here to talk to you about that today. Today, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about reptiles, and snakes in particular. So, snakes are a wonderful creature that are part of this world that get a lot of flack from people just not understanding them, to people being afraid of them, and I want to help kind of dissuade people of that so people don't necessarily love and want to give them kisses, but if they want to at least understand them a little bit better. So, that's what the whole point of this little video series is going to be about. Multiple people have had to sit there and listen to me rant and talk about snakes for years and years, and so they said, why don't you start a YouTube channel? That way you can actually maybe tell people about that, and we think you'd be really good at that, so we're going to give this a shot. So here's the first video and a little bit of an introduction, so it's probably going to be a little long, but we'll see how it goes. So, to start things off, we have Utah here, who is a piebald ball python. Ball pythons are arguably the most popular pet snake in the world. They're great breeders, they're very personable, they don't move around a whole lot, and they just come in such a variety of colors and paint jobs and all sorts of different things called morphs. They stay a very manageable size. They only get 4 to 6 feet long snakes. 6 feet is a very, very rare occasion. They usually stay around 4.5 to 5 feet long. They have really great temperaments. As you can see, Utah here, he's an adult male. They don't get really about much bigger than this. They can get, as I said, about 4.5, 5 feet long, but he's an adult. Snakes have what's called exponential growth. So, indeterminate growth, not exponential growth, indeterminate growth. So that means they will continue to grow the entirety of their lives. So like people, once they hit a certain age, we stop growing. But with snakes and other reptiles and fish and stuff like that, they'll just keep growing for the rest of their lives. Once they get to adult size, it really, really slows down. So he's not going to get too much bigger. But Utah here is a piebald ball python, which is a type of morph. It's a recessive trait. I'm not going to go too much in detail about that on this video. We can talk about all the genes and morphs and other stuff like that later down the road. But as you can see, he is perfectly calm, perfectly comfortable. He's moving around on me a lot, but he's just checking stuff out. He's perfectly calm. He's okay. Now, they usually call them ball pythons because they like to ball up. That's their defense mechanism in Africa when other predators are trying to get at them. They'll roll into a ball and hide their head in their bodies so that way their heads are protected, and hopefully that way they can have the predator lose interest, or if it comes at them, it can't get their head. He is a captive born and bred animal. He's very comfortable. He doesn't fear me at all. He's very comfortable. He knows I don't bear him any ill will, that I'm not going to get him. So even though I'm messing with his head, as you can see, he's not balling up. So he's not being a very good specimen as far as balling up goes. But that's also what makes them really great pets. So we will move on to another type of snake that we keep in captivity quite often, and for a very long time have been very popular, but kind of gone out of vogue a little bit because of how popular these guys are. So we're going to step aside really quick. We have Omega, the corn snake. Now, corn snakes have been a pet snake for a very, very long time, for decades and decades, because they make really great pets. They are not a python, they're not a constrictor. They are a colubrid species that are found endemically, which means found naturally, here in North America. They're found anywhere between like New Jersey all the way down to the Florida Keys down in Florida. So they, obviously that's a really big range geographically, so they can change a lot on all the different colors and morphs like that as well. So ball pythons are very famous for having all sorts of crazy colors and morphs and stuff like that. But corn snakes have quite a variety as well. Not quite as many as ball pythons do, just because of how prevalent they've been bred. But Omega here is just a regular corn snake. Some people say that she might be what's considered an Okatee corn snake, but a lot of corn snake people out there are going to yell at me, and that's not true. But Okatee is just in reference to a locality and usually has reference to the really thick black banding around their blotches. But they're called corn snakes because if you flip her over, you can see that her beautiful belly has all that kind of crazy color and stuff like that. So that's in reference to, like right there by her head, you can see it just changes from almost white and black all the way down to that kind of rusty pink down there, in reference to Indian corn. So like before we started having just pure yellow corn and stuff like that, it was that kind of multicolored corn that you see sometimes around like Thanksgiving in the fall and stuff. And so that's why they call them corn snakes. So as you can see, once again, she's very calm, but Utah wasn't being a very good specimen about this, but ball pythons have a tendency to be more sedentary. They just kind of sit there. So for people who are a little bit more afraid of snakes and are a little not quite at ease with them, they make a little bit easier intro because they just kind of sit there. Corn snakes and other colubrids like king snakes and milk snakes and rat snakes and stuff like that, they move around a little bit more. They're a little bit more active hunters when it comes to looking for food other than ball pythons. Ball pythons mostly just sit in like an anthill down in sub-Saharan Africa, and they stay in there where the temperature stays nice and consistent, and at night when mice come along to try to get at the anthills or other rodents and stuff like that, they'll come out, eat their food, and go back into their little anthill. These guys, they have burrows and stuff like that. No, Omega, you're going away. But they're going to more actively seek them out, and they, in the wild, they actually will eat a lot of like lizards and toads and stuff like that, as well as just rodents. But even though she's being very cooperative and pulling out the paper that I have just for kind of a blank canvas, but you can see she's moving around. But even though I'm sitting here moving her around and stuff like that, she's perfectly at ease. I'm perfectly fine. See, she's right here by my face, and if you look, you can see her tongue kind of going out rapidly like that. That is them just kind of seeing what's going on. So they taste with their tongues, and so they'll flick their tongue out like that and collect scent particles and then bring them back. And there's this little organ at the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ that registers those smell particles. And so when they flick that out, they'll get all that smell and they'll bring it back in, and that will sit there, and they can sit there and it'll tell them where exactly what's going on. Is this food? Is this a predator? What's going on? What do I need to be aware of? And so she's just checking stuff out. So you can see she's over here by my face, and she's just fine. So that's why these guys make really great pets. They have great temperaments. They just kind of hang out. They're a little bit more active, so somebody who's more comfortable with snakes and just kind of loves how they move and stuff, they're a little bit more fun to interact with because they do kind of check out. So you can see she's just cruising along on me right now. But that is Omega the corn snake. She's a good little girl. Hi, baby. Hi, I know. So we will put her away, and we're going to bring out somebody a little bit bigger. Okay, and here is somebody a little bit bigger. He doesn't have a name, but we just call him Doublehead because he is double heterozygous for a type of albinism as well as anery. But we're not going to talk about genes and stuff like that. So, as well with ball pythons and corn snakes, and really a lot of other snakes in general, they have also different colors and patterns and stuff that will be shown and are desirable for the pet trade and stuff like that. So this is, we'll just call him DH. So DH here is a common boa constrictor, or a boa constrictor imperator. He's not a true red-tailed boa. So the true red-tailed boas usually get quite a bit bigger, and their tails, so you can see that he has that kind of like rusty brown right here. But with true red tails, that can be very, very deep red. They are found for the most part, in South America and Central America and a few islands off the coast like that. And he's just wrapping me up like this. He's just trying to get a hold of me. So right now, I am a big tree holding on to him, and so he's just trying to get comfortable to figure out where exactly he's going to go. So we'll just kind of let him chill out and figure out where he wants to move. So a lot of people, when they think of boa constrictor, they think it's this very large, very scary snake. And they do get bigger than ball pythons and corn snakes and other colubrids like king snakes and stuff. They're usually still in captivity. They only usually get about 6-7 feet long. And that sounds really big, but the double head here is actually pretty long already. But he's very manageable. Well, he's hanging out down by my leg. Come on, buddy. And once again, so you can see, his tongue is still doing that, flicking out. He's just checking stuff out. He's just cruising along. He's very comfortable with me as well. They make a great pet species. Personally, I first really fell in love with the boa constrictor of all snakes. I've always found them very interesting, very fascinating. I love the way they move. I love the genetics behind them. But boa constrictors always were just like the key species for me, in my opinion. They're a little bit more intelligent than ball pythons. They move around a little bit more. They get a little bit bigger. And I just think that they have a little bit more personality than them. I still love ball pythons to death, but that's just that's personally me. I'm not saying they make the best first pet per se, but and actually my first pet snake was a ball python, but I very quickly graduated to these guys too. But I just love boa constrictors. They're so great. And so, you know, when you think of that iconic thing of, oh my lord, it's a boa constrictor, it's so scary, but he's fine. He's not doing anything wrong. And so when you think of the word constrictor, that's just a classification that people give a certain type of snakes of how they hunt their prey, is constricting, which is squeezing the bodies around that will they led to asphyxiation, and with smaller prey items that actually will end up stopping their heart. And it's actually quite quick. The rats really don't suffer when they eat that. So like a ball python, Burmese python, boa constrictors, those are all constrictor type snakes. They're almost all found in tropical to subtropical places around the world. So right where the equator is, a little bit above and a little bit below that is where they feel most comfortable for their needs. And so when we keep them in captivity, we have to do our best to try to recreate those exact elements so that way they feel comfortable and happy and they thrive in captivity. So a lot of people don't know if they make the best pet when compared to like a cat or a dog. And I think the main reason why is because they just are so different from human beings. They're not warm-blooded, they don't have legs, they don't run and greet you at the door like your dog does. So they're really different, and people don't have a tendency to not like stuff that's different from them. But as you can see, he is a very beautiful snake. He's a great animal. You can see he doesn't think I'm food. He's not trying to measure me, which is another really common myth, and we can talk about other myths about snakes later down the road in future videos, hopefully, if this ever gets somewhere. But really, I just want to talk a lot about the misconceptions about snakes and reptiles, specifically snakes, and eventually about, you know, there's a lot of videos out there and a lot of information, because the internet is just so prevalent in this world these days, where anybody can go on the internet, and if they have an outstanding and dynamic personality, they can get a big following just because of the kind of people that they are. But the problem with that is someone who hasn't had them for a long time, or they are very opinionated in what they think is the best or the only way to keep things or how things are, they can spread a lot of misinformation or halves-truths to a lot of people, and that's kind of what I want to help out with a little bit is, oh, hey, careful buddy, is that, you know, these guys are just wonderful, beautiful animals and are a great part of the world, and they make wonderful pets, and they're so great. I'm sorry, I know I'm stuttering a little bit and getting a little tongue-tied, but every single time I pull out one of my guys, I'm just simply in awe of them because they're just so wonderful. I mean, I love all of my animals. I love my dogs, my cats, and everything else, but just I think my life would be dramatically different and probably worse without these guys in my life. And if I can have people start to understand that and see that, then I think that's a really great thing. Like the past few weeks, we've had some people actually come over to the house where they were so scared they were actually outside in their cars psyching themselves up to come into the house because they knew that there were a bunch of snakes in there. And then once they finally did come into the house, you know, they came down to the main snake room where we keep the majority of the snakes, that they're looking at the different species of all the different colors and fun things like that, to where they're holding snakes, like holding Utah, for instance, holding everything else, understanding a little bit more about them. And when they went to take a snake home for their kid for Christmas, they were so excited and so enthralled with this new snake that they changed their Facebook profile picture to them holding Utah, to them talking about getting more snakes, to saying that it's a present for their kid, but they're like, no, he's on my arm, he's comfy, well, you can hold him later, okay, he's good right here. And that's the kind of thing that I like. I'm not telling people to go out and buy a bunch of snakes and everything like that, but just to understand them and to have a respect for them is so much better than being afraid of them. And so the more that you can understand and the more you know about something, the less you have to fear about it. And that's the whole point. Yep, you're going to go for a thing there, DH? I know, buddy. And that's really what I want to come across. Hopefully this YouTube channel actually does manage to get a little bit of a following, and hopefully you guys don't find me too boring. We're just getting started. As you can see, we don't have a whole lot going on with the sheet in the background. Hopefully the lighting is a little better than the last video that we tried to shoot. But we're going to make a few more, and I'm going to hope that the information that I bring is both educational, hopefully I'm at least a little entertaining for you guys. And I'm going to try to keep the videos a little bit shorter than this one probably is going to be. But because this is the intro, I just kind of want to have everyone kind of know what I'm going for here. And we can do a bunch of different ones. I'm never going to show a feeding video because personally I don't even like feeding videos. I love rodents. I have pet rats. I have pet guinea pigs. And I don't like to see them feed that. And we've all seen The Lion King. We know how the circle of life works. Snakes are predators. They do eat food, just like us. But because it is a cute little mouse or a rat like that, a lot of people are. That's another big thing that people are a little bit afraid of. When in reality, it's a lot more humane than a lot of the meat that we eat from factory farming and how livestock and stuff is mistreated these days. But I'm never going to show a feeding video because I don't think, number one, I don't personally agree with that, and number two, it may not necessarily be the best for our hobby as a whole. I know a lot of people like that, and it is actually interesting to see how an animal without limbs or digits is capable of eating such large prey items at times. But I'm just never going to show it. We can talk about it. We can talk about their jaw and everything like that, but I'm never going to show any videos, as well as I'm never going to show any snake bites on this channel. If in the process of holding one of these guys or showing you out, one of them does, oops, sorry, little fly and I popped his face, but as you can see, I still popped his head. He freaked out because it was unexpected, but he didn't bite me. He understands what's going on. So, good example like that. So, an accident happens. It's almost always at fault of whoever it is who's interacting with the snake. So that could have been something where, because there was a fly and I hit it and I popped his head, he could have been afraid and he could have bitten me, but he didn't because we have built this relationship of trust together. And so in an instance like that, if we're on camera and a snake does bite me, I'm going to do my best to try to remove that from the actual camera itself, but it will be explained why that happened. Whether it was a fear response from the snake because something happened that I did that made the snake fearful, or a misconception or something that it thinks that I'm food, that, I was playing with a snake or playing with a rat or a cat or a dog earlier, and the snake, who can, with their forked tongue and their Jacobson's organ, they can smell that a prey item has been around hours after it's left, even after I wash my hands sometimes. They can still kind of smell in the air. Their senses are so acute, where they might mistake me for food. Doesn't really happen a whole lot because we have that relationship built up. But if that happens, then I'll show up and I'll explain why it did happen. But I'm never going to go out and try to get purposefully a bite from one of my snakes. It's a very traumatic thing for the snake. And it doesn't really hurt, but it is still a little startling when it does happen to people. But it's not great for them. And I don't think it's really great for the hobby, and that's what I want, is I want people to be a little bit more aware of things and be more open-minded about things and just have a bigger understanding about the hobby and about reptiles in general. So, with all that said, I know this is a little bit of a long, rambling first intro video, but I promise I'm going to keep them a little bit smaller from here on out. If anybody has any critiques or criticism, please let me know down in the comments. I'm pretty new to this. Been keeping snakes and stuff for a long time. Not a whole lot of video experience. We're shooting this on an iPhone, guys. So if anybody has any ideas, if they have any experience, if they want to help out, please let me know. Constructive criticism, please. I can do with a lot of the internet YouTube hate, but we're trying to keep this great about reptiles. So if you can help me out with that, that'd be spectacular. And that's about it. So stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to do a few of these, maybe post a couple up at once to start the channel. I'm going to try for a weekly schedule for new videos, maybe on Thursdays or Fridays, something like that. We'll figure that out as we get further down the line. But a little bit long-winded again. my boy DH, and the other guys, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Have a great day.